Here we go. Yeah. Well, you can hear me. I can hear you, and
I hear you. Yes.
we are live on Confronting Creativity. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, and uh, and those who choose to not be defined. Everyone's welcome. How are you? Welcome to welcome to Confronting Creativity. My name's André Cholmondeley. I'm your host here at Make Weird Music, and I'm really delighted to introduce somebody who doesn't really need introduction. I always say that, but you have to introduce people. Ladies and gentlemen, this is someone who is a guitarist, an author, a photographer, which we're going to talk about, and original member of what I think is one of the big five. We're going to talk about that. One of the most creative bands in thrash metal, but he's also somebody who has gone around the world playing jazz, fusion, jazz rock, whatever you want to call it, world music, his Planetary Coalition, all kinds of things. That's the short version. Mr. Alex Skolnick, how are you?
Thanks, man. What a great introduction. I assure everybody it is me. I've had a bicycle helmet on for the last hour, so I'm doing you a favor by hiding the top of my head, but you can see a little gray hair, so you know it really is me. And what a cool introduction, and it's great to be here, Andre. How are you?
I'm doing okay, my friend. Now that we can use the time marker a year, it's pretty surreal that because you and I started talking about this a year ago, and it's amazing. So I'm doing good. I'm used to it, and can't complain. Have a house with food in it, and
Yeah,
my heart goes out to those. We know a lot of people struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but one of the things this year, for all of us touring musicians, I mean, we both tour in different ways, and you're always on the road. I'm always on the road. We've run into each other on the road, and it's been just a screeching halt. And what's been interesting though is watching a lot of artists just pick up and figure out something to do. Wow, you've had an incredible year. You've had been doing recently these great collaborations with Charlie Benante and Les Claypool and all manner of people. Claudio.
Not Les Claypool, but
Oh, we weren't on that one. I'm sorry. It's a blur. Yeah, but
yeah, but there have been so many. Yeah,
so many. Yeah. Charlie
I
Benante
have played with him before, but not on any recent things.
on the recent things. Okay. There's been the Alex Skolnick raps. There's been an incredible
Right.
Twitter stream, and working on your own music and your photography and the cycling reports, and it's just been a busy year for you. So give us a quick snapshot of your year and how you're doing.
Yeah, well, I guess some people are surprised because when you're identified with a band that's high profile or semi high profile or just high profile in a certain genre or subgenre, you're sort of identified as that, and you're viewed through the lens of the majority of people who do that music. So it's a surprise if you don't fit that description exactly. And it's one of many things I do. I'm constantly working on multiple projects, like you mentioned, especially jazz and jazz rock, various types of improvisation, photography, writing. But recently, and this past year, it definitely blossomed in a lot of ways. A bunch of new things came up. You mentioned Charlie Benante, and he's another person that doesn't really fit the mold, and just has extremely diverse listening and playing tastes. And he can quote an unbelievable number of musicians and different genres very authentically. And he had the idea to do one of these jams. So before, you were seeing so-called quarantine jams or bedroom jams or whatever you want to call them everywhere. We did one, and we did YYZ by Rush. And at that point, him and Rod Diaz, from currently with Suicidal Tendencies, but just also a very diverse all-around musician, they had already started doing some drum and bass grooves together. And I think I was the first guitarist they brought in. They've done a couple other ones with different lineups, but I think the most constant lineup he's had is just us three, sometimes just us three, sometimes with other musicians, but doing Rush. And anyway, this YYZ that we did just blew up, and it was in Rolling Stone, Spin, it sort of blew past the usual outlets that focus on us three. And I was getting a lot of messages. How did you guys do that? Like, how were you, what technology is, and we didn't tell anybody for a while. And gradually people figured it out that, we're actually playing. Usually the drums are pre-recorded. I can say this now. A year ago, I wouldn't have revealed it because that was part of the fun, was the mystery. But Charlie played along to the record. We played along to him, filmed ourselves playing along to him. He filmed himself as he was playing. So it really looked like we were playing. And anyway, we've done several since then. We just did one on the anniversary of YYZ, which was April 5th. We just did Subdivisions. And we did several. So that was one project, but I've done multiple other videos like that. I've been writing and blogging for a long time, but I got an offer to write for New Lines, which is a legit news journal.
Great.
And I wrote a piece called "Shut Up and Play Your Guitar,"
right?
Named in honor of a great musical figure,
That's right.
Mr. Frank Zappa. And pictures. Oh my God. Yeah, it took a lot of pictures when the pandemic struck and New York City was deserted. Just getting to know my bicycle again, which, when you tour hundreds of days of the year, there's not that much time to ride a bicycle. Suddenly it's my main mode of transportation. And I was riding it while the city was quiet and people had left, and just got an incredible amount of photos. Oh, cool. Oh, you're prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. That great. Yeah. Case in point. So it was this great opportunity to really not only capture these historic moments, but to fine tune my photography. And thanks, man. These are perfect examples.
It's surreal. It's
So that's continued this whole time. Photography, different things. I mean, shortly after these scenes, we got into the big protests. So there was just constant historical events to capture. And living in New York, it's just a gold mine for photography. So there was just constant photography, and these recording projects keep coming in. I've played on a few other people's records. I've guested. I fine-tuned my tech skills as far as not only photography software, but music software.
Yeah.
Started a Patreon. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but it's been pretty nonstop.
That's a great wrap up for folks who may or may not have been following along.
I did some rap videos, but which was totally unplanned. But we could talk about those later.
We're totally going to talk about those. But no, what a great wrap up, and folks that saw that, alexskolnick.com, and we have the link in the chat there. And I want to say that too. I always say that to artists. Everyone knows, get a website. So many artists don't really put the time in, and I want to say, what a great website you have, because
thank you.
What I like about a website is if you can send someone there who knows nothing about the artist. That's important. A lot of artists, and you've got the bio, you got all kinds of links and stuff about what's happening right now. So I urge people check out Alex's site, and all these different facets are there. Well, as you said, and this program is about confronting creativity. We always kind of go with a different angle to reach kind of the creative spark, and that's another inspiring thing. I mean, you put the work in. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I follow your Twitter and your Instagram and your YouTube channel, and
There's the tail in the background.
yeah, the cat's there. You're always, you know, working on some stuff. I mean, and you put up videos of whether it's you working on various modes or chord progressions, and the software side too. You know, a lot of people kind of get this analog snob thing happening. But how about all worlds? It's good to have tube amps and all this stuff. But I love that you're digging in and showing us how you do the IK multimedia and other types of software. Tell us a little bit more about that, because you mentioned that you've dug in more on software. Tell us a little bit. Have you been recording with all this new software? What's your you know, development there?
Yeah, well, that's another thing. With the chance to do all these recordings, both the quarantine videos, guesting on other albums. Like one of the first I guested on was Mike Zito, who's a great blues player, and he did this tribute to Chuck Berry. It's got all kinds of great players on it. Joe Bonamossa's on it. Chuck Berry Jr. is on it. Yeah, it's very. Robin Ford is on it.
Great.
So I knew that, you know, if I'm playing on this album, this is like a legit blues scene. Not only does the playing have to be together, but I really have to, you know, get the recording right. And you know, I like analog as much as the next person, but not all of us have the means to record on a Studer, you know, vintage tape machine. And you know, most of us don't own those. Not that many studios have them anymore. And you know, this is the world we live in, so you might as well embrace the digital as best you can. And I think it's gotten much better. A lot of it doesn't sound digital at all. So the first thing I did, I got back from, you know, my last tour, which was in Europe, and I brought home what's called a Kemper, which is a both a profiling amplifier, like a digital amplifier. It's got hundreds of sounds. And with Testament, we use those live, and they sound very good. I'd only used them for Testament before. I'd never really dove in. It's almost like a computer in itself, and there's a bit of a learning curve. But I took it home. I spent some time just getting sound, and I was shocked at like how many possibilities there are. So I've since, you know, not only recorded for Mike's album, I did a track for my friend Jen Majura, who's Evanescence's guitarist, a group called Lost Symphony, which will be coming out soon. Really amazing upcoming musicians, like classically trained, but they have this sort of classical crossover project. Probably more things than I can think of at the moment. And I really, you know, without my guitar tech to sort of hold my hand through this, using this Kemper, yeah, I could, and you know how that is, you know, having techs for people. Yeah, we get dependent, especially on the road. It's like, oh, there's a problem. Okay, my guy is Carlos. You know, Carlos. I don't even know how to change the patch. How do, you know? So, and you know, it is a complicated device. But anyway, I learned how to use that, and I've not only used it on all these guest tracks, used it on these Rush covers. Just did one. I had to learn a part by one of your bosses, Mr. Steve Howe. Oh my God, it's hard too. This guy is so like incredible. Like, and people know, but I don't think he makes it look easy. His stuff is not easy at all. Yeah.
What track? What? Oh, can
I don't think I'm at liberty to say.
Yeah, no problem.
And it's with a bunch of people. Luckily, I didn't have to play the whole part. It's one of the epic.
Sure.
I'll just say that it's an epic.
Okay.
and there's several different players on different sections.
Got it.
And then I thought, oh, okay, it's just this one section. It won't be that hard. And wow, it was really hard.
Let's see, the epic, long, crazy Steve Howe track. That narrows it down.
I know exactly. But that should be coming out of it. So yes, Rush, Fleetwood Mac, Kiss, UK, like just a crazy amount of stuff. And with these tones, I just found like every tone I needed in this device in the Kemper. And I've also used it for tutorials, which I do on my Patreon, and that's been a lot of fun. But at the same time, Amplitude has come out, or IK Multimedia, I should say, has come out with this new software, Amplitude 5, and they've got me as on board as one of the artists. And there's some pretty serious artists on there, like Brian May has patches on there, Satriani, Slash, and I had Amplitude 4, and I loved it for travel, especially for just like rough recordings. It was great, but I really think they've upped the game here. Like with 5, it's a whole new technology. So I wouldn't put it before. I wouldn't have put it up against like a real amp or the Kemper even, but now there's certain sounds in there that I will choose. So, I've done a bunch of playthroughs and artist demos with the Amplitude 5 stuff. And with each of these things, it's I've never really been a tech person. I've always been one of these people. I'm more focused on the strings and the frets. But it's been fun. It's been fun getting to know these gadgets better, and they've gotten so much better, like what you can do with them. So I'm really having fun. I think I miss the freedom to do concerts more than I miss concerts, at least at the moment, because the last several years I've done hundreds of concerts a year, no exaggeration. So for me to just have this time to better learn how to use the Amplitude 5, better learn how to use the Kemper, better learn how to use my camera, play guitars that I don't bring on the road. Some of these, when I travel with whether it's with Testament or my trio, I only bring 2 guitars, maybe 3, and certainly not the vintage ones, not the irreplaceable ones. So, and I've acquired a few over the years. So it's been fun to play these guitars that I don't always get to play, and make videos using the guitars. And so to me, there's been so much to do. There's been no shortage, and the audience has been bigger in a way because more people were at home and paying attention.
Right.
So I chose to look at it as an opportunity.
That's great. That's what a great, again, another great wrap up. And again, it speaks to the creativity, and it's inspiring folks. Make lemonade out of lemons. I always say to people, find a way, because it could be way worse. And that notion of finally having time, like you said, here's a hollow body I haven't played too much. Let me do some things on it. Over to a bit of guitar. Of course, people know that your influences are, your rock influences are clear. People like Hendrix and Van Halen and all the rock bands and things like the Scorpions, old Scorpions, Iron Maiden, all the things.
Randy Rhoads.
Yeah. But then also
Jeff
Beck and all the classic guitar people. But also, of course, Wes Montgomery, Pat Metheny, Schofield, Frizzell, that whole world. And taking early George Benson, and taking it to the Alex Skolnick Trio. Tell us a little bit just about that, and if there's anything cooking in terms of recording remotely with the folks in the trio and
Yeah, well, the trio, it's been going a long time. I was, I went through this big change from, say, the mid 90s to the mid O's. I changed coasts, decided to go back to school, get a university education, and just to dive deep. I purely did what I wanted to do. I was not, and that's really where things turned around. I think that's sort of where I found myself and was sort of able to thrive. Nobody expected me to do that. But I just thought, I'm going to take time off. I'm going to, study the music I want to study, which is, it was jazz improvisation, but of course it wasn't limited to that. It was also, world music, improvisation, blues, and not abandoned heavy metal, say, but not being limited to that. And I just, a lot of artists have over the years have talked about being boxed in and pigeonholed. And I think when you're in a rock band, especially a heavy metal band, especially a thrash metal band,
right,
like the boxing in pigeonhole factor is extreme. And I just stopped caring about it. I just stopped caring about what anybody thought. So while I was getting my university degree at the New School in the jazz department, I met my drummer. His name is Matt Zabrowski, and we started playing in what would become the trio. But it was just purely for fun, with no career goals at all. But I guess because it happened so organically, there was a great response to it. And initially, I had the idea to bring in, Scorpions and Aerosmith and Kiss songs, which like nobody was doing back then.
right.
It was kind of out there idea. It was kind of funny. I mean, I thought it was funny too, but people would hear the songs. They said, "Wow, that really works." So that was sort of our theme for the first few records. The last few records have been more and more original music, and I'm constantly hearing original music, constantly working on original music. And the most recent album came out in 2019, not that long ago. So it's just now time to start thinking about another one. The ideas are there. We just got our first show. One of our favorite venues to play is the Iridium in New York, home of Les Paul.
Sure.
They are reopening in the fall. So we're one of the first in their first month. We're one of the acts that's going to help kick things off. And that's going to be in September. And now that I think that's a symbol of things happening. And so just the motivation of, wow, we're going to have a show. We should start thinking about that next album.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
I want to have one out next year.
Okay, good. And that's good to
goal.
hear. Something is 4 or 5 months down the road. So obviously today, one of the things I was looking forward to is you don't have to worry about asking Alex Skolnick controversial political things, political issues. So on that note, what's your thoughts on, as we move forward, clubs opening like Iridium, other clubs who are already saying, and Live Nation saying it, so it's not even that controversial. Live Nation, AEG, Ticketmaster is looking at this. Norwegian Cruises just announced it. What's your thoughts on a place like Iridium saying in September, sorry, no entry without some kind of a scan that shows you had the vaccine? Because it's tricky. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do. And it's also going to be limited capacity as well.
Sure. No, it's tricky, and I know. Hopefully, some people will comment. We get it. There's privacy concerns. There's HIPAA and all that, but you need vaccines to put your kids in school or a summer camp, right? Or to
Exactly.
or to fly to 50 odd countries. I'm at.
I just did a post the other day.
Yeah.
Yesterday, in fact, about vaccines. I think you saw it. Just saying that, to go to certain countries, we need to get a yellow fever shot, and we carry this card that's put out by the World Health Organization that is proof of vaccination.
Yeah.
What's the difference? We've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
We don't complain about it. We wouldn't think otherwise. We don't want to risk getting somebody else sick.
Right.
So why would there be an issue here? And then, when people complain about the vaccine, I don't know what's in it. I'm suspicious. Well, are you suspicious of polio vaccine? Because I think you got that. I think everybody gets that.
Sure.
Right. I don't think you leave the hospital without getting certain vaccines. And I'm just amazed, like, how people aren't aware of this. There's measles, mumps, polio. There's vaccines that we have been getting that for years, and that's why we're not getting measles or mumps, or why we're not being forced to not be able to walk because of polio.
Yeah,
it's because we get these vaccines, and the same medical and scientific communities that are behind those vaccines are behind these vaccines.
Yeah.
I'm my patience is running thin for these types. I gotta say.
That's I concur, and the strongest thing, and believe me, folks, this discussion will go on and on, but the strongest thing to remember is it's private industry, and all the folks who always say leave businesses alone. It's an interesting area because it's a private business choice. If Kid Rock, his club probably won't have requirements, and that's fine. I salute you, Kid Rock. We're in a free.
Yeah, and then we can choose not to go there.
It's that simple. So, no. I applaud you for always speaking out, and I talk to me a little bit. You said something the other day in an article which I thought was great, and you along these lines of shut up and play your guitar. But you said something along the lines of, "Hey, some people that are out here, flogging the new album, flogging the new pedal that you're endorsed with, talking about this. That's all fine because we but to do it and not have any comment on this world we're in, and whether it's George Floyd or whether it's climate change or whether it's, I really, again, just so inspired that you just let the bricks come flying in, and you kind of say to people on Twitter, hey, I'm going to express myself. Tell us a little bit about that, about any feedback on that recent comment on and your thoughts in that area.
Well, I have a few things I'm not good at, and one of them is pretending. I'm not good at throwing a football. You wouldn't hire me to be your quarterback. There's other skills I'm not good at. I guess I get guitar. I'm very dedicated. I'll concede that I have some skills there, but pretending is just a skill that I don't know if people are born with it, and I don't know if this is because I am the offspring of like social scientists in a way. My mother has a PhD from Yale in psychology and human behavior. My father is a world-renowned sociologist.
Right.
So I recognize when people are pretending, and I think there's a lot of pretending.
Yeah.
Just to act like, oh, everything's fine, everything's normal, Yeah. When something insane is going on in the news, and there's been some insanity, especially these past 4 years, without going into too much detail, but just like shocking, and just to act like, oh yeah, that's okay.
Both sides are the same.
Yeah. The the current, at the time, president, threatening nuclear war on Twitter, or calling his predecessor a sick guy, and then Obama getting attacked for just making a very mild-mannered comment or response. Sure. And just watching all this, to just going, no, this is not okay. We can't pretend. And then it obviously got crazier. Then we get into the time the election is about to happen, and just insanity, and just stuff with the post office, and just
got that,
lies, just full on, like, certain television channels talking to people like it's like a South Park episode. Like, it has gotten that insane. And I can't, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to have to talk about it, but I can't not talk. I can't pretend it's not happening yet. For some reason, there are certain segments of listeners and followers on social media that get just completely bent out of shape. How dare you comment? I follow for guitar. I don't follow for the
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I saw a great comment from Ted Nugent the other day, and he was saying how how come we didn't have a lockdown for COVID 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That was awesome.
He actually went all the way up, and it's like, oh my God, dude. And I applaud Ted's right to say whatever I do.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say don't say. Yeah,
it's so that's what's funny. Well, what's great though is, again, you're an artist, and tried and true, that's what you do. And I love, again, that you just morph these things either into an article or into your podcast, which we'll talk about in a minute, or the raps. Those were so cool. And you did a few raps, and again, there was a lot of love for them, but a couple snipers, and you kind of go, hey guys, sorry. Tell us a little bit about that, and weave into this answer a little bit of your perhaps your influence in rap, because I know people like Public Enemy, Gil Scott-Heron, Dead Prez. I know you have all these different groups on your radar. Talk to us a little bit about approaching the rap and
Yeah, well, okay. That another thing that was totally unplanned. So, just real quick, the podcast was planned. I've been planning that for years.
Okay, we'll focus on that. Yeah,
purchasing the gear for it, and even like recording segments with musicians and plotting it, and it just kept getting derailed by my touring schedule. So that was another good thing. I was finally able to do the podcast. I was able to just really hone in on it and do it in a way that feels different. I do little soundtracks. It's almost like a little audio documentary.
Yeah.
And I'm working with Osiris Media, and they have a whole network of podcasts. They have Eric Krasno and Oteil Burbridge, and it's this really cool network, and they help shape it, but they really get what I'm doing. So that's been a really cool thing. So that was planned for a long time. The raps happened basically because I was going to explode. I was like, you can't, first of all, you can't reply to everybody online. And my posts were starting to feel futile, because just how many times a day can you respond to what's going on? And I had so much to say. And every now and then I will bust out a rap, and because when I was in high school, my little circle of friends in Berkeley, we had very diverse tastes. We were always we were listening to the Scorpions constantly,
Good.
Scorpions and Van Halen were probably our most listened to music, but Run DMC was out. Like how could you not get into it? It was so awesome. And, other stuff, Grandmaster Flash, the message. I mean, I would hear stuff like that, and it's infectious. And no, I never had any impulse to do it, but I don't know what for some reason, anytime I hear that music, it's infectious. And the same way I'll hear certain guitar songs, I'll get it'll trigger ideas, and I'll start playing, I'll jam along with it.
Sure.
And you wouldn't think that I would have that with rap, and it's certainly not every type of rap.
Sure.
And I certainly don't try to appropriate and sound like I'm from the other part of Berkeley that I'm not from.
Sure.
But the rhythm of it and just the rhyming, like, it kind of comes naturally. So after years of growing up with this music, every now and then I'll be at either at a party or backstage after a show or on a tour bus, and music's playing, and one of these songs will come out, and I'll start rapping along, and people are shocked. They're like, what? That's like perfect. But it's never a skill I plan to. It's just a fun thing to bust out at parties. Yeah. So I was creating some music for my podcast. I was creating some funky music, and I had this groove, and suddenly I started hearing rap over that.
Wow.
And it was like a key point. I think the post office boxes were being removed. There was the joy. There was the obviously the January 6th insurrection hadn't even happened yet. Of course, that would have been in there, but there was the Bible photo op, right? The clearing out of like just
unmarked
so
groups.
much crazy stuff. And then these reactions I'm getting from people online, Trump, Trump 2020, and it was just driving me nuts. And it just started happening very, very naturally. I think I was inspired by this guy, Mark Rebelay. He calls himself Loop Daddy.
Oh, right.
Online. Have you seen this guy? I mean, he does amazing things. And he just did a collaboration with Ice-T, and it's funny because he just looks like just the nerdiest dude, right? He's a white guy with glasses, and he performs in like bathrobes or like silk boxers. But he's pretty amazing. Like and he posted a clip at a club, and he had gone into this spontaneous thing, F Donald Trump. Okay. F Donald Trump. F. And I remember just being totally affected by that and inspired by it, and watching the crowd. This, I guess it was pre-COVID, the clip he had shared. And he shared this clip, and okay, I can't do F Donald Trump, but what about Trump sucks? And I just tried it over that groove that I'd already been working on, but not even thinking about it as a rap, just as like background music for my podcast. Trump sucks. I thought, okay, well, maybe it needs like a little bit of like, I don't know, how would Tom Morello treat this part? Make it more of a rap. direction, So yeah, I started listening to him and just checking out these heavy grooves, and it just started coming together. And then the lyrics, it was just like instant. It's like for some reason like I said, it's really easy for me to come up with stuff, and there's just so much to rap about. There's like okay, there's Ivanka being put up. Oh, I think the other thing that had happened, there was the convention. Republican convention, right? Which that was just so freaky.
The best is yet to come.
Right, there was that.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when Ivanka spoke, right, they put her at the presidential podium.
Mm.
And first of all, you don't do events. You don't do campaign events at the White House. Like, that's never happened before.
Unknown. Yeah.
So like stuff like that keeps happening, and everybody says, "Oh, what's the big deal? You're overreacting. Oh, it's just because you're liberal." Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just going crazy watching all that, and yeah, they're sending a message. They're putting Ivanka in front of the presidential seat, in front of the, and I'm just like, ah! Yeah. All right, I need a verse about her. I need a verse about Jared. I need a verse about some of these other like creatures, and it was. I can't believe how quickly it was done. It was really done in not much more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like from the time I started working on it, was just a marathon home recording session.
Yeah. Well, it felt natural, and it's funny because, of course, Run DMC you mentioned. Everyone remembers that epic hit they had with Aerosmith.
Well,
and some of us, I'm sure you're included, went, of course, this is perfect. I mean, the cadence of Steven Tyler on the original, it's right in there with rap, and also kind of the chugging guitar of heavy metal. So to me, it all makes sense, and I loved it.
I wasn't surprised. I was one of the few people in my circle of friends when that came out.
Exactly.
I just said, of course.
Yep.
Of course.
Yep. No, it's great. So that's great, and I urge people to go check some of these raps out. I hope you do some more, and I hope you, just because it's a nice, fun aside, just like, and someone's mentioning about the Night Watchman, just like Tom Morello, he has that little slice of reality where it's like, what? So I hope.
A lot of people have asked. I get asked all the time, and I have to be inspired. I'm sure it'll happen. Sure. I also have to have the time, and there's just been so much between this written piece I just did that you were talking about, which is like a New Yorker length thing with like New Yorker level writers and a New Yorker level editorial section.
Yeah. And
I just did 3 different collaboration videos and recordings. So stuff has gotten incredible. Yeah, I'm definitely playing. I loved doing it. And I love doing the next one too, because I went kind of the mask thing. The politicization of masks drives me nuts, and it was also a way for me to respond to the critics.
To the responses, yes. Wear a mask. No, that was a great one with the Fauci.
And also, I got to address the first rap as well.
Right. Well, I did it. It was almost more of a talking thing. It was definitely very Zappa thing. Yeah.
We've got a bad situation all across the nation. Yeah. And some people say, oh, he can't really rap. So then the second one, I really went for like my best sort of Grandmaster Flash sort of Chuck D, honing in on that. But also doing Fauci. And I do these with iPads too. So like the whole first one, every verse I'm like showing on the iPad what I'm talking about.
Different stuff, yeah.
And then in the wear an effing mask, the follow up, I'm doing the choruses as Dr. Fauci. So I'm like putting his face over the
No, it's great. It's no, I love it. And you mentioning Zappa, and again, I always remind people, go read the lyrics of the first Frank Zappa song on the first album. And you could think you could do it as a rap. Mr. America, walk on by. The minds that won't be reached. Mr. America, walk on by.
Oh, that's so true.
Peach. It's right there, Mr. America. Try to hide. Please, someone that's way better than me, do it. Like you should do that. But no, those lyrics line up nicely, and they're incredibly prescient because they're talking about the
There's
water.
a few songs like that now that you mention.
A lot. So
Trouble
Every
Every Day.
It's right there, and of course, Dumb All Over. So yeah, we So of course, we met because of Frank Zappa. You came down to see my band, Project Object. So that was quite the shock, folks. We were after the show saying hi to some people, and I look over and this guy is there saying, "Hey man, cool show," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm glad I didn't know you were here." I was playing guitar.
And now we like have so many mutual friends. I mean, it's funny how that worked out.
It's crazy. It's crazy. On that note, and on the note of some more guitar, because we got some guitar lovers in the crowd, which is expected, of course. Again, we're with Alex Skolnick. He's doing so many different things during this year, and you know, it's been inspiring on a creative level. One of the things this is another project, and you've worked on a number of projects. This is another bunch of friends we have in common, but you're on this new record by Jane Getter, the Jane Getter Premonition.
Yeah.
And what a lineup of people. So you've done a few albums with them. You've played live, but it's people like Adam Holzman, of course, Jane's husband, Stu Hamm, who you did stuff with for decades, Chad Wackerman, Vernon Reed's on there, Gene Lake, Chanda Rule, Mark Egan, Randy McStein. Wow, what an all-star. Give us a little snapshot of what it's been like working with Jane and when you tracked for this new record.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. It's just the circle, it's so small. And I bumped into Vernon over the years out in the world, but then here we are both working with Jane, and it's like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
and Adam, and then Adam, and it's just a really cool thing. And I first met Adam. It's all tied together because when I was studying at the New School, I took when I was in an ensemble playing Miles Davis music. Oh, there they are.
There's
Miles Davis music with Adam in his class, and that was how I got to know him. But then over the years we kept in touch, and then this project came up, and it's just it's really perfect. I mean, Jane has this full jazz vocabulary, but she has a prog heart.
Yeah.
And really comes up with some cool tunes. It really kind of updates the spirit of stuff like those albums by Bruford, UK, all the like classic prog, only just updated and with a little more jazz vocabulary.
Sure.
And the tunes are really good. Some of it's very like catchy and could reach non-prog crowds, and some of it's very prog, but it's also got these really cool these improvisational sections. We've done these trade-offs live that are just wild. We've couple times Vernon has sat in, and we've done these three-way guitar trade-offs, and it's just
great videos from Iridium.
Yeah, and it's just really fun. And Stu, I was somebody I ended up with my first tour outside of the world of metal was with Stu back in the 90s. And then we reconnected and started playing, and then I don't even remember how him and Jane and Adam connected, but that was a really good fit. And then and Stu and Chad had already played together, and then there's always these connections, and it ended up being this great combination of musicians. And this is my second album with her, and it's a lot of fun. We've done a few. We tour when we can.
Right.
We did this Prague Fest in Prague Stock, it's called. in New Jersey. That was one of the
Sure.
Yeah, one of the last shows we did pre-shutdown, because I went straight on tour after that, and that was actually the tour, my pre-shutdown tour. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I think people it reaches a lot of different types of listeners.
Right. That's the line, yeah.
Yeah, it's got the jazz soloing style. It's got the jazz vocabulary, but it's very prog and it rocks hard at times. And then there's other times where it's very mellow. Good for fans of kind of softer singer-songwriter types.
Yep, some vocal.
It's got to be a beautiful ballad. It's really it's very diverse.
Yeah. Well, the connective tissue is great. Again, you mentioning Stu Hamm, and then that connects to people like Steve Vai, and then Randy McStein's on there, which connects to Marco Miniman, and so the UK and John Wetton. I just love that.
We've been doing a bunch of stuff together too, which is
right. It's really exciting to see this community.
And he's just a multi-instrumentalist. It's incredible what he can do.
Love him. No.
You can put him on like any instrument in any role, and he just kills it.
And it's admirable. Yeah, no, we're going to have Marco and Randy McStein on here actually in a couple of weeks, talking about their records. So, but folks, check that out. The couple, there's two Jane Getter Premonition records, of course, with Adam, with Adam, her husband, Adam Holzman, but also with Alex Skolnick. Let's turn to something that's, we've talked a little about your photography. We've talked a little bit about, your passion for learning all this new software and new techniques, streaming and all this. But what's been really cool, I've been listening to a bunch of your podcasts, and let's talk about that. And again, folks, alexskolnick.com, it's all there. The podcasts are right there, and you can find them.
The podcast is actually on alexskolnick.net.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
That's okay. There's a link. .com is my main website.
Yes.
And there is a link to it. But if you directly get it, just go to alexskolnick.net, or it's wherever you get your podcasts, and it's called Moods and Modes.
Thank you. Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, alexskolnick.net for the podcasts, and you can jump over from there, as Alex said. So let's talk about those. It's called Moods and Modes, folks. It's as Alex spoke about before, working with Osiris. He'll tell us about that. And wow, the recent one with Peter Frampton, how cool was that? And people like the Retro Fret in Brooklyn, that was fascinating to learn about these luthiers. There was a beautiful Chick Corea episode. I learned a lot from the Near Felder one. I mean, so it's a real cool hang. Alex is doing some playing. He's talking. It's just off the cuff, some great stories. Talk to us about that, and we'll segue from there to a little bit of Rodrigo and Gabriela and the Planetary thing. But tell us a little about Moods and Modes and how that's...
It's evolved quite a bit. So when I first imagined doing a podcast, I thought about this before there were even podcasts. I remember just thinking, it'd be a great idea for a show, since I like to play a lot of styles of music and hang with different types of players. It would be fun to do something like piano jazz with Marian McPartland.
Great.
That was the longest running show on NPR for a long time, and it was just her and a piano. And there it is. And the latest episode. Yep. So that was the idea, these one-on-one sessions. But as I mentioned earlier, it took forever to get this together because of my touring schedule. And by the time I started to get this together, we had the shutdown. So the idea of doing a weekly jam was just not going to happen.
Right.
But I got a few jams in before all this, including Near Felder, as you mentioned, Persona, and there's a couple others that are going to be coming up. But I figured, okay, I need something else. I don't want to limit it to just that format. So I really started to think of these as sort of like audio documentaries, kind of like a parts unknown, but for guitar, and no animals harmed in the process.
Okay.
And so the very first one came about. It just wasn't even planned as an episode. I just happened to be getting my guitars repaired by this real character in New York named Matt Yumanov. And anybody, and a lot of guitarists, even outside of New York, know who this is, right? He has had a legendary shop since the late 60s. You know, he kind of started around the same time that the Village scene was happening, and then it kind of blossomed in the 70s, and it lasted all the way up until the last few years. And he doesn't want to retire, but he's kind of scaled it down and just does repairs above this storefront. But for the longest time on Bleecker Street, Matt, I think the sign is still there, Matt Yumanov Guitars.
Right.
And he's hilarious. He's like he could be a character on Seinfeld.
Right.
Just real hardcore New Yorker, does lets it all hang out, no filter whatsoever. And he was describing my guitar repair and going into these stories, and I just thought, oh my God, this is amazing. This could be an episode. And I just said, could I record some of this
conversation?
Yeah. Podcast? Yeah, sure. So he goes into some. He was talking about I think a guitar he repaired for Pat Metheny.
Oh. That
Pat Metheny had got from Jay Giles.
Okay.
And but like Jay fucked it up. Yeah, he did this, and and it was just this insane story. So sure. I had to, and all I had was my iPhone, but I recorded him, and it was just so great. And I learned with with the power of equalization and a little bit of audio trickery, I could make it sound great and fix the balances and turn it. So that became the first episode, and it's called Guitar Rescue.
Right.
And that just felt like a really good one to launch with. And I mentioned I had done some of these one-on-one jams before everything shut down and we all weren't allowed to be in the same room. And in addition to Near, another artist is Prasanna, who's this incredible guitar player from Chennai, India, that has a full rock catalog. He can quote any Rush or Zappa tune, but he's also very skilled in Carnatic music, like Indian classical, and he does these licks that sound like a sitar or a veena.
Sure.
It just doesn't even sound like a guitar. So he had come over and we had recorded with the goal of a podcast episode, and that became episode 2. And one really sad thing that keeps happening is we keep losing great artists.
Yeah.
So the first it became sort of, the podcast also became very cathartic for paying tribute to artists. So the first one was Peter Green, and because that was just such a big deal. It was very hard to ignore it, and it was really hard to put out another episode at that time. And I just thought, okay, let me throw together an episode. My friend Mike Zito, who I mentioned earlier, I had played on his record. I knew he was a big Peter Green guy and a pure blues guy. And, and I got some other folks that were more, on the music education, music journalism side of things, and it became the reaction to that episode was really great. But I just thought, okay, I probably won't have to do any tribute episodes for a while, and then Eddie Van Halen,
Right. Yeah.
And then, of course, that can't be just one episode. Yeah.
No,
so that.
And we did one here too. Yeah.
Yeah, we did one, which was great. And I actually used. Thanks for doing that, because I used a little clip of that.
Right. With Vernon.
And that was and that became part of the episode. But that became a 2-part episode, and then of course, Chick Corea. I can't ignore him. There's been a few others who really kind of deserve an episode, and I'll probably get to. I haven't yet. Leslie West certainly deserves one. Tony Rice. But in the meantime, I don't want everyone to be.
Well, it's exactly. Yeah,
it's tough. We're losing too many people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the good news is, there's plenty of material to work with. The bad news is, it's sometimes for this reason, but they're all different. So it'll go from a trip to a guitar repair guy like Yumanov, or Retrofret, which is this awesome vintage guitar shop, and I bought an amp there, which has a whole story in itself. It was owned by Walter Becker from Steely Dan. And then in between the collaborations, and then the one that dropped yesterday, Peter Frampton, and thankfully it's not because we lost him. He's alive and well.
Yes, alive and well, and kicking.
And he's here. He agreed to just come on and be a part of the podcast, which was a huge thrill. Because I posted yesterday, early childhood memories, but both hearing him and seeing his face every day, because I had a older brother, who was when I was 7 years old, he was already in high school,
right?
And at that age, he got it when it first came. He got Frampton Comes Alive when it first came out. I was trying to grow his hair like Frampton,
right.
So he was a big part of my childhood.
Sure.
And I think it certainly planted seeds for guitar, because I remember hearing the guitar. But by the time I was ready to learn lead guitar, Eddie was out. And Eddie just raised the bar and just, took things to the future. And it took up all the oxygen in the room, rightly so.
True.
I listened to it today and I understand why that is. However, after all this time, going back and hearing what was happening right before Eddie came out, whether it's Brian May, whether it's Peter,
right,
and that stuff is so good, and it's it's worth a revisit. So I had a lot of fun, not just talking to him, but also kind of revisiting that music, not just that music, but the Humble Pie stuff. I somehow had missed that. I would have loved that when I was in my sort of Kiss Blue Oyster Cult phase.
Sure,
that's some hard rocking music.
It's what those guys were listening to, right? Eric Bloom was listening. That's what he went to see. No, what I love about this, and again, it speaks to me, the core of creativity is your joy for all these types of music, and to keep looking and keep learning. Again, folks, you can find Alex on Twitter, and he's talking about music all the time too, and whether it's Django Reinhardt, some new track he discovered, or some brand new band that he's checking out. And we're hitting so many areas here. On the hip hop connection too, I wanted to say it was also cool that you pointed out that the scratching in Atomic Punk worked perfectly as a hip hop thing, and then you use that.
That was in Wear a Mask.
Wear a Mask, yeah. So it's all these connections, and also
I always heard it like that too.
Yeah. No, it's
because when that came out, the Atomic Punk thing. Yeah, I get the turntables were just starting to get popular, or maybe it was a year, I forget. It was roughly the same time period. So between the early hip hop stuff, Sugar Hill Gang, and
sure,
and then of all people, Herbie Hancock, who you wouldn't expect to go into those kinds of sounds, but he had a massive hit with Rocket, where he really featured the turntable. And I always thought, oh yeah, it's so much like what Eddie's doing in Atomic Punk. So this was a perfect way to pay tribute to him. And I had actually recorded that track and done that whole thing before this news broke. So it was just totally coincidental that it had this little Eddie Van Halen tribute within it.
Yeah, no, that was, such a cool time. A quick rest in peace, of course. We're talking about losing all these artists and to only 50 years old. DMX, of course.
DMX, I know. Oh my God.
And to this point of diversity, he worked with so many people, but this new single just dropped, and I'm blown away. His new single has Bootsy Collins, Ian Pace from Deep Purple, and my boss, Steve Howe. Like, what? Steve Howe's birthday
beautiful.
was yesterday, and so it's bizarre, and it's a happy dot on a sad day. That's such a cool, strange collaboration. But to that point, folks, that I think, and we're hearing it from Alex, part of creativity is really embracing this planet of music and all these styles. Let's close on a little bit of that, because one of the episodes, or two of the episodes actually, of Moods and Modes is with the incredible Rodrigo and Gabriela, who you're good friends, and of course they worked with you and with so many others for the Planetary Coalition project. Let's close a little bit on that, and what's any thoughts going forward for that project?
Oh yeah, there are definitely thoughts. That was just another idea that was just sort of always on the back burner. I would like to do a world music album. I enjoy a lot of world music. I always hear moments in world music where I thought, okay, if I could play this for somebody that knows nothing about world music, that likes the same stuff I grew up on, or likes the music they know me for, or whatever it is, I think they might be able to get this. And if you go to a world music section in a record store, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's just so many albums and so many, but so I just thought, okay, why don't I come up with some parts that reflect some of my favorite world music moments. And I also always wanted to do an acoustic record. And one of the things that happens if you're with a project that is touring often, it becomes really hard to do these passion projects.
It does.
So
time.
Yeah, exactly. So 2013 and part of 2014 was a big gap in the schedule. Testament was taking a break. I thought, okay, if I'm gonna do it, I need to do this now. And also I had enough people at least to do a really good EP. I knew I could get Rodrigo and Gabriela when they came in. They owed me a favor because I played on their record.
Right.
And I found this group of local artists. They're called House of Waters. And they've since done some really cool stuff. They've been picked up by Ground Up Records, which puts out Snarky Puppy, who's massive. Snarky Puppy just is this phenomenal and incredible musicians too. And so House of Waters, they've become this reliable support act for Snarky Puppy. But this was a couple years before that, and they were sort of like the core of this band. And I just thought, okay, if I can do a few songs with them and a few duos or trios, like with Rod and Gab, but this could be an album.
Yeah.
So, and then it became this concept of, all right, let's have each track represent a different region. You know, it doesn't have to be too specific, but it ended up being like 5 continents. So
great.
Yeah, I had Rod and Gab from Mexico. I did a duet with this great peepop player from China named Yihan Chen. Yakuba Sissoko, who's an incredible kora player. And so there's Africa, the Middle East. I had the New York Gypsy All Stars. That's another great band of musicians. They're based in New York, but the musicians are from Greece and Turkey. And collaborated with musicians on both sides of the Holy Land. Gaji Seri, who's a great percussionist, plays with the Israeli artist Achinom Nini, and Anand Jabran, who's from the Palestinian territories, and plays the oud. And it was just this beautiful kind of a statement of music overcoming borders. And I mean, kind of like some of the stuff I do now. Mm-hmm. But also, just sharing this sort of, highly energetic international music, and all of it works really well for acoustic guitar. So it sort of became both like a statement of world harmony, in more ways than one, but also a showcase of international music and acoustic guitar. And I am thinking about another one. It's the seed is planted, and I've been asked about it. The record's definitely got, I think, coming from me, it was so unexpected because of my associations. But I think now it won't be, and it's developed a sort of a cult following in itself. Sure. And I've met people that are familiar with the record that really don't know much about it.
Yeah. It works very smoothly, and hey, I'm not going to, let's not sell Testament short, folks, because Testament
was a very solid band, if I may say so. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, in this regard, I mean, you guys have shown that metal is a language that's around the world, and you've played in so many corners of this planet, and there's diversity in the band. There's people from different backgrounds. So
we have a Native American on vocals.
Yeah, there's a group, and your topics through the years, you've hit on so many things about really strong and important political issues for indigenous people, and privacy issues, all kinds of things throughout the years, war, and so to me it's a smooth thing. It's just it's a louder form of that cooperative.
Absolutely, to me it's all connected. I think that inspired it too. The fact that the metal, it's become such an international style of music. Yeah, like there are fans from all over the world. I mean, it's even for a long time, that kind of metal, thrash, and then music that followed thrash, I guess, whether it's new wave of American heavy metal, there's a lot of different terms, death metal, all of it, or extreme metal, whatever you want to call it. It ended up really being embraced, and with much less stigma than in the United States. Yeah. I mean, you're sort of at the point where, there are politicians in other countries that are like openly metal fans. Indonesia, for example, perfect example. The prime minister is a fan. He wears a Lamb of God t-shirt.
Well, we could do a whole topic there with January 6th and the guy from
there are even a few musicians on the Planetary Coalition record,
Right.
who I met because they were fans of the metal stuff.
Right.
There's these guys that play on there's two Argentinian songs. So one is more of a like urban, like Buenos Aires, and it's a tango. And then there's another one that is rural, which is a completely different sound.
Yeah.
And the guys in this project, it's funny, they have a metal band, and they also all play these indigenous instruments. And usually I get asked all the time, Alex, will you collaborate with us, please? And most of the time, like, okay, I don't have time. I just don't have time. I mean,
Sure.
I'm very swamped doing my own projects. If I'm going to collaborate, I want it to be different. And if it sounds like a demo of somebody that's just, doing like Testament type stuff, it's probably not going to interest me. But they sent me, I liked their music. I liked their metal stuff, but they also sent me a clip of them doing this breakdown where they put down their guitar and they just play these percussion instruments, and all indigenous, and it was like mind blowing.
Wow.
You guys, okay, I'm going to make an exception. We're going to collaborate, but you're going to play those instruments.
Right.
And I'm going to create this other song around that's acoustic and sort of, and they were from this region that was going through a lot of turmoil because of the soybean industry, and Salto is their region. It's also the name of the song.
Okay.
And I learned a whole lot about this. I didn't even know this, and like the soybeans and like ownership,
sure,
from big agriculture, just sort of exploiting these regions, and the situations with pesticides, and they had actually sent me this heartfelt story about their region, and I wrote the song with them in mind. So it was very educational, but and in that sense it tied, at least that part of it tied directly into the metal side as well.
Sure, and again, this speaks to a point that you do weave in these things you learn about from around the world, and that's what again informs. I wish people would look around and see that some of these ideas of corporate expansion or environmental stuff or overuse of pesticides, they're happening globally, and they can help you kind of figure out what's happening here. So I'm glad you brought up some international stuff.
Salto is it's the name of the song, and I couldn't think of it before, but the name of their band is Raza Trunka.
Raza Trunka, okay, that's cool.
So they're worth checking out.
We'll check them out. Well, we're gonna wrap. It wasn't that many questions. A lot of people just saying they're loving it. Someone asked about the Animalia album, which of course we did.
That's the Jane Getter album, the new one. Yeah.
So Zachary this is going to be up here for playback. We did get into that record a few minutes ago. Someone's else asking, do you enjoy electric or acoustic more? And it sounds like you love them both, but does it just depend on the day?
Yeah, it depends on the set.
Yeah.
It depends on what I'm playing too.
Yeah.
I do love the simplicity of acoustic. It can be so nice to just not have to worry about pedals and patches, and it's just like this one sound. Maybe you give it some ambience, but
it's fantastic.
I like that. But then I can't imagine not tapping into all the possibilities of electric too, and just all the the screaming parts, and the vocabulary. So so it all depends. I like to do like to do it all, and it's got to be the right situation and with the right song and the right collaboration or solo, whatever.
Horses for courses, as the Brits say, right? It depends.
Perfect. Yes.
Excuse me. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our episode. This is, again, Confronting Creativity. I'm André Cholmondeley. You can find me, actually, as at Guitar Tour, anywhere, Twitter and all that. And, of course, you can find Alex Skolnick. Just put his name in Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah.
AlexSkolnick.com.
At Alex Skolnick on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep. And
the real Alex Skolnick on YouTube.
That's right. And AlexSkolnick.com and .net for the photography and the
podcast.
The podcast, Moods and Modes, which is really cool, folks. I subscribe to it, and it's just a great, there's so many cool podcasts happening right now. This is a special one because, again, a lot of the topics we covered today. So, Alex, please keep us in touch with recording projects. That Make Weird Music is here to share your weird music with the world.
Yeah, I've got lots of weirdness to share. So more coming soon.
Please come back in a few months, folks. We've got. Please subscribe and like. Tell your friends about this this episode. Of course, we leave it up here permanently until the aliens or until the electromagnetic pulse, whichever happens sooner. Coming up in the next couple weeks, there's a couple special things. On Wednesday, five days from now, my other show, which is called The Gear Spotlight, and it's more the gear nerdy thing. We've got this really incredible gentleman on named Merlin Ettore. And Merlin is what is he? A virtuoso drummer who also is a modular synth guy and a soundtrack guy.
Wow.
And he does this amazing hybrid of electronic music and drumming. Let's look at this for a second here.
Yeah.
So he's got so we're going to talk to him about his crazy setup and his electronic music. So that's a little taster of Merlin. So he's going to be on Wednesday, the 14th. We're going to talk to him about his crazy world. And also coming up, we've got a thereminist, Dorit Chrysler.
Cool.
Lyle Wackerman. A lot of you here would know that guitarist. And Katie Coleman, which is a name you might not know from the music world. But she's a flautist or flutist, however you pronounce it. And that's what I'll say right now. She does some incredible duets with Ian Anderson that you may have heard of. And she did them from space. So that's the only clue I'll leave with you. But all of these coming up, you can find them at makeweirdmusic.com. Over the next little while, we're developing this. This is our new website. And please subscribe. And please keep coming back with your questions and with your support. We appreciate it. Alex, thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Andre. It's great to be here.
We'll talk to you very soon, bro.
You got it, bro. Thanks, everybody. All right.